eyes, it is the first state which is nearest to Tanzania. Kerala has been known all over the world for a very important fact, namely that it was the first state, but it was the first case, first instance when a communist government was elected through popular voting. Before that, you had a communist governments installed through revolutionary upsurges and insurrections. This was the first instance of a communist government coming to power through popular elections. Now, the fact that that happened is because in Kerala, communism itself had been based or had its roots not only in the anti-colonial struggle, but also in a social reform movement. I want to go back a little to that in order to highlight the change that has taken place. At the beginning of the 20th century, Kerala was a state where the feudal ethos, both in the matter of land concentration in the hands of landlords and also in terms of the hierarchical caste relations, the feudal ethos was so strong that you have not only untouchability that you have in many parts of India because of the caste, lower, so-called lower caste or Dalits are not supposed to be even touched, because if you touch them, then you get polluted. Kerala not only had that, Kerala had a system of unseeability, that if you happen to see a person of a lower caste, then you get polluted. So the lower caste people used to go with bells around their necks, so that if a person of a higher caste was coming, then that person would shout out, and the lower caste person would stand by the roadside until he had passed, and then the lower caste person would go on. That was the situation of feudal oppression in Kerala. Now, because this, of course, the communist movement began, that succeeded it, a government that were more or less coerced into carrying out those land reforms because it had enthused the people. As a result, even though communists have not been continuously in power, they have been getting into and out of power. Currently there is a communist government. Even though communists have been getting into and out of power, nonetheless, there is an enduring legacy of the kind of reforms that they have introduced. This has a number of features. Let me quickly summarize those features. The first feature is, of course, land reforms. There is massive land redistribution in the state, where landlordism, as we know it, with people holding vast amounts of land, is more or less abolished. You don't have substantial landholders or holders anymore in the Kerala state. What you have is plantation owners who may own hundreds, thousands of hectares, but on the other hand, they are plantation owners. They are not traditional landlords. I shall come to the plantation because Kerala is a land with coffee plantations, with tea plantations, rubber plantations, and so on. So you have these plantation owners holding their land in long-term leases of 99 years, and there is still land concentration there which has not been distributed. That land has not been distributed. But on the other hand, as far as landlordism of the traditional variety is concerned, feudal landlords, they have got it. A second feature of the land reform in Kerala has been that, when the landlords went, the land mainly came to the tenants and the sharecroppers. But there was a vast mass of agricultural laborers who either did not get much land or tiny amounts of land, which was above a certain ceiling in many of these cases. But on the other hand, the second stage of land reforms was that every household, every agricultural household was allowed to own a certain amount of land around their hutments. So this is, they all had their little huts in the villages. Around the huts, they were allowed to own a certain amount of land where they could grow vegetables and so on. That's the second phase of land reform, which was for agricultural laborers. The first phase benefited the tenants. apart from land reforms, the other legacy has been substantial social sector expenditure, particularly education and etc. Any measure of social indicators would suggest that Kerala's achievement is really not only comparable but even better than that of other third world countries, including even socialist third world countries, and it is comparable in many respects to the indicators as far as the advanced capitalist countries. The third feature of Kerala's development has been a substantial development of the cooperative sector. In the cooperative sector, you not only have, you have a very substantial cooperative banking sector, for instance. You have cooperatives in Kerala owning hospitals. You have cooperatives running all kinds of enterprises. You have cooperatives running retail markets, retail shops. And so cooperative sector is very wide. And of course you have petty producers, small scale producers organized into cooperatives. So you have fishermen's cooperative, like you find malls in many cities, you actually find cooperative stores in many cities of Kerala where you actually get all kinds of goods. So the cooperative movement is very well developed, and particularly cooperative banks, cooperative credit societies and cooperative banks are extremely well developed. Almost every village in Kerala is a banked village, and these banks include cooperative banks. The fourth very significant feature of Kerala's development has been what we call democratic decentralization, namely the devolution of resources and decision making from the state government to the local level self-governing institutions. In other words, in India now, you have 3 tiers of government. First is the central government in Delhi, second is the state government, like the Kerala state government, and third is the local self-governing institutions at the village level. They are called panchayats. In Kerala, there are 1,000 panchayats, which means that such village level elected bodies constitute in number about 1,000. And then you have urban also institutions as well. So rural as well as urban, local self-governing institutions. Now, these institutions are like in no other state in India. There has been a devolution of resources and decision making as well. For instance, schools are run by the local LSGIs, local self-governing institutions, even though the salaries of the school teachers is paid by the state government. Hospitals are run by the LSGIs, not all hospitals, but certain hospitals, local hospitals. But on the other hand, the salaries of the doctors are paid by the state government. So you have management of all these local institutions being entrusted to the LSGIs, and what is more, they are also given an amount of resources which is fixed statutorily by a state finance commission, which is established according to the constitution once every 5 years, and that decides how much planned funds should go to the LSGIs, to local self-governing institutions. And the state government has to accept that because that's a constitutional body. So roughly about 1/3 of the total planned funds of the state are handed over to the local self-governing institutions to plan as they are. And they have their own projects and they pay for those projects out of these funds. Typically those projects may involve building local roads, they may involve developing local crafts, they may involve developing local marketing facilities, etc. But whatever it is, that is left to the decision making at the village level. At the village level, you have general assemblies of all the residents of the village, and that in turn is where the decisions are taken. Proposals by the leadership are presented, and the decisions taken about how to use the planned funds. The fourth or the fifth feature of this Kerala development model has been that it had the most successful and pervasive food distribution system, rationing, public provisioning of food at cheap prices was done universally. Its coverage was great and no other state had such high coverage. I shall come back to this in a moment. And of course, something which is not a legacy of the development strategy, but Kerala has been characterized precisely because of its high levels of education. It has total literacy. Because of that, it has been characterized by a lot of progressive thinking, ideas. All those progressive thinkers are not necessarily communists, but on the other hand, there is a lot of progressive ideas, a lot of discussion and debate. On the other side, one of the weaknesses of Kerala to date is the fact that even though women are employed in large numbers, they have the women's work was given a big jolt by the entry of neoliberal policies. And this jolt is something which occurred in 2 or 3 very specific ways. The first is the following. Fortunately, even as far as cultivable land is concerned, this land was increasingly being used for developing cash crops of various kinds. This did not matter because cash crop price, which tended to protect cash crop growers against price crashes. On the other hand, you also had a situation where from the people in the Gulf, and there's a huge migration of Kerala people to the Gulf, all this was deposited with the Central Bank of India, but in return the central bank, or in return the central government provided, kept as foreign exchange reserve, but on the other hand the center provided you with neoliberalism. A very important change to place, namely food distribution now is supposed to be targeted. Not that everybody can access food, but at open market prices which are much higher. Now, precisely because Kerala has succeeded in bringing down poverty greatly, that basically meant that Kerala was cut off from this supply of cheap food by the center under the neoliberal regime, of which targeting is a very important component. Right? So what you had, raising some food grains itself from the local producers over and above what the center used to be, given a big blow because of neoliberal economic policies. The second thing which actually happened function as market support mechanism for the farmers. As a result, pressure for states in India to actually invite big investment to their states. So much so that there is a race to the bottom. Different states compete against one another in order to give even more favorable terms to big business, including to multinationals, to come and invest in their country. So we decided that we are not going to go in for that, and we decided that Kerala model in terms of the welfare expenditures, in terms of social sector expenditures, is something which we are going to preserve no matter at what cost. Now, I must make a few things clear here. The planning board in Kerala, because it has had a communist government, is a far more significant body than the planning board in any other Indian state, or than even the planning commission at the center, which now has been even abolished. So Kerala planning board continues. Literally every major decision of the government, which involves financial allocation, comes to the planning board for ratification. Every significant file comes to the planning board for ratification. Even if, suppose, a particular ministry decides to organize some money by way of Japanese aid in order to start some project, that project would not go through unless the planning board okays it. The planning board has a huge staff of its own, on the basis of which it actually, it looks at the feasibility of the various projects. But what is more, when I was the vice chairman of the planning board, used to draw on outside resources. I would draw on the help of very distinguished town planners, very distinguished architects and so on, who are not necessarily associated with the planning board. but they would very cheerfully help us in providing inputs on particular projects. And I must say, because there's a lot of sympathy for the Kerala model, all the various experts of various kinds whom I consulted outside of the planning board did so without charging me a single penny. In other words, they gave gratuitous but knowledgeable advice on all kinds of projects. I wish I had time to tell you about some of these projects, but it actually saved the state from being sucked in. You must realize that in this day and age, there is a huge pressure on the state government to succumb to certain kinds of projects. Okay, I'll just give you one example. We were told, we had a tribal museum in the port city called Kochi. You must know Kochi. In prime land, we had so we were given an offer that look here, we are going to develop this tribal museum into something fantastic, and we shall do so without charging you a rupee, without charging you a penny. Now, obviously, every state government naturally would be tempted that without our having to spend a penny from the planned funds, we can actually have a wonderful tribal museum. In that case, why not? But then it turned out that when we asked them how you will do it, that the tribal museum would be located inside the mall. So that basically the idea was to take away government's land, which was prime property on the seashore, in order to develop a mall. And of course, as a kind of price for that, they were willing to allow us a corner of the mall as a tribal museum. So we said that would be. But these kinds of projects keep coming, and I think it's very important to get expertise, and we were very fortunate that most of the people we approached not only helped us, but what is more, did so without charging a penny. So when I joined, we had taken this decision, given the importance of the planning board. We wanted to use it for really bringing about an intensification of the Kerala models rather than a negation of the Kerala models. The first thing we did was to set up a debt relief commission, which would ensure that out of the planned funds, we would provide money in the case of highly indebted peasants who had, I said, got into debt because of the crash in cash crop prices and who were committing suicide in particular regions. And so we set up a debt relief commission that would use planned funds to provide debt relief. Shortly after we had done that, even the central government in India actually did a very similar debt relief operation, which saved us some money, but we had done that. The second thing which we did is to substantially increase government expenditure on education and health. This was not very easy because, state government's resources are very limited. So when we went, the resources were hardly there, but we tried to raise through various fiscal means, our resources, and whatever we could lay our hands on, we devoted for education and health, because of which many people who are moving away from the public healthcare to private healthcare, because the public healthcare was getting run down, got re-attracted to public healthcare, and likewise many who are moving away from the public education system to the private education system got re-attracted to the public education system. The third thing which we did, which is, I think, quite an important, nowhere in the world has such a legislation been passed, and that is what I was told by many people, including Joseph Stiglitz, the American economist, who said, oh, this is fantastic idea. We actually know there is Kerala, as you know, has very high density of population and land. There is a great pressure to use agricultural land for construction purposes, for real estate and so on. And the idea is to stop that. And what we did is that we actually passed a law that no paddy land can be diverted for any purposes other than a set of listed purposes. Now when we did that, we faced a lot of criticism. People saying you are not to shoot down peasants because they want to use their land for some other purposes than paddy. But on the other hand, as I said, Stiglitz is a wonderful legislation, and all third world countries should have something of this kind. But you see, food security is extremely important. And therefore, whatever food you can grow, you ought to be able to grow. that legislation had within it a clause that suppose some land is lying fallow, then the district administration could take over that land, give it to somebody to cultivate, and to give a rent which is decided by the district administration to the landlord. So the landlord has no choice in it. In other words, the landlord, because he or she was leaving that land fallow, simply has to accept whatever rent is offered. Now what happened was, Kerala, as I said, has had a very strong tradition of cooperative movement, and in particular, in the recent years, under government patronage, a very powerful statewide women's self-help group has come up. It has branches all over. In the planning board, in the canteen, the food I used to get as lunch was actually cooked by a restaurant that was owned by a same women's self-help group. They own shops, they own canteen, they own a substantial competition. Now, this women's self-help, at least 10% of the population is Christian. And the remaining, the remaining almost half the population, you can call it Hindu, but then you really divide it around caste lines and so on. Upper caste Hindus are very small, and increasingly because of the left influence, they have been losing power. So there is a backlash from their side. There is an effort to whip up Hindu chauvinism against the minorities, against the Christians and Muslims, and this is something that manifested itself recently. I don't know if the newspapers have covered it. The Supreme Court gave a verdict that in one of the temples in Kerala, a very old temple, where, that women of childbearing age were earlier not allowed to enter, but the Supreme Court gave a verdict that this is constitutionally discrimination against women, and they should be allowed to enter. Against me, there's been a big agitation. The purpose being to actually discredit the left government and also to whip up Hindu chauvinism. So that is a major challenge at a political level to this whole Kerala trajectory of the world. The second challenge, of course, comes from neoliberalism itself. Since the time I was there, recently the government of India has actually introduced what's called GST, Goods and Services Tax, where there's a uniform rate of taxation across all the states. Where, because of, and this is something which many countries have done, this is part of the neoliberal agenda. And because of this, the state government has no control over the tax rates it can impose. Because the GST, there's a council idea is to unify the national market and so on. Other than the United States doesn't have a GST, but nonetheless there is this argument. And what you have therefore is an effort now to have, or you do have all states having identical taxes. They're not identical across goods, but for any particular good, all states have the same tax rate. And this is the tax rate on value added. As a result, what happens is that no state government has the capacity to raise taxes. I told you that when our government took over in 2006, one of the things we did was to raise resources in order to enlarge our education, health infrastructure. That is now not possible, because how can you raise resources because you can't even raise tax rates to your own liking? So that's another major hurdle which the government would have to face. It have to think of imaginative ways of carrying forward this Kerala. Now I believe that there are ways, and an obvious one, as I mentioned earlier, is that plantations still have hundreds and thousands of acres, but on the other hand, there is no ceiling legislation, they are still holding on to it. How many acres they have, we don't even know. How much they use, we don't even know. How much they don't use, we don't even know. So our planning board has suggested something which may be of general interest, that suppose we actually have a coffee plantation. We take the payroll, how many employees does it have? And then we work out a norm of per acre of coffee plantation, how many employees would be required. And on the basis of that norm, you work backwards to find how many acres does the plantation actually use. And the surplus is something you take over. There are still to this date, homeless and landless people, And the idea is to get them settled on the surplus land of these plantations. The fact that plantations have surplus land is something which is admitted by them. They themselves are saying that we have surplus land, can we start a 5-star hotel on it? So we say that no, the land was given to you for plantation. If you have surplus, government takes over the surplus, not for you to start a 5-star hotel. So I think the scope for land reforms is not exhausted, and therefore that still leaves open the possibility of advancing this kind of an egalitarian model of distribution. The impact of this egalitarian model of distribution is something which became evident recently. You may have seen in papers, Kerala faced huge floods recently. There were massive floods. But in the floods, the relief work, I mean, everybody stood together with everybody else. Fishermen, they were not paid a penny. They actually came with their boats in order to rescue people who had been stranded. Students, teachers, every section of society mobilized itself in order to provide relief, in order to rescue people who had been trapped by the floods, etc. So a certain kind of cooperative ethos prevails, and that's the kind of unity that we would like to see, and that I believe has been basically a product of this kind of model. Finally, I end by saying, when I went to Kerala, I really went with a question in my mind. The question was, under neoliberalism, we know the challenges it poses as far as governments are concerned. Is it still possible to do something even under a neoliberal regime? And my answer for the state government was that yes, there were still possibilities, and I believe there still are possibilities. It is never the case that all possibilities are foreclosed and you only have to follow a neoliberal path, that there are always possibilities of pursuing an alternative path. Kerala is only a state. When you are talking about a country, then of course matters are different, because when you are talking about a country, capital flight would take place if you do something different from what financiers want. Moody's would downgrade you, and if capital flight takes place, then you have financial stress on your hands. So you need to have suitable, adequate capital controls. But I believe that putting suitable, adequate capital controls, it is possible for the government to start with by increasing welfare expenditures, and of course from this to move on to an alternative trajectory of because at the level of the center, at the level of the country itself, you can do many things by way of raising resources and so on, which of course the state government cannot do. So whether it is at the level of the country or at the level of the state, there is always a hope that we can actually move towards an alternative trajectory. And that is something which I learned from my Kerala experience. Thank you.
What can be done in difficult circumstances in the interest of the large majority of the people? Let's open the discussion. I have a few things to say later, because as Professor Patnaik was talking, I began to see certain parallels in our own country. So maybe that will come out in our discussion. But before the let us open discussion, please feel free not only to ask questions but also to give your comments and see what is it that we can draw from this experience which Professor Patnaik has tried to summarize. I'm sure you may have many questions on which you can elaborate. So very good.
First and foremost, thank you, Professor Patrick, for your presentation. You have highlighted actually issues which are also related in Tanzania. And I wish that to get your experience from the Kerala system. You have really alluded issues of cooperatives and the board, the planning board. I wish to know how are these planning boards and cooperatives are constituted. Because in the country we have also the trade from 87 we have the number of cooperatives, but some are not working successfully. So I wish we can share how these cooperatives and the planning board are constituted. Okay.
Let me take a few questions and then you come back. Yes, please.
about the industrialization approach taken by Ghana state. You said one of the approaches the state has been using about industrialization was to encourage the cooperative organization to set up industries. He said that the cooperative sector in Ghana is quite developed, and that they are involved in so many activities, economic activities in the state. Now, I just wanted to know what kind of encouragement is he talking about? Maybe tax cuts, what kind of encouragement so that we can our case here
Yeah, question, yes? What kind of...
Arrive at what you arrive at. Because you might have some very good planners here, spend a lot of time in planning and advise the government on certain issues. When you go to the top, how do you manage to manage both the technical solutions and then the adaptive solutions to arrive at what you got?
Right. Planners to carry them out, instead they're shut down. Right? That was the question. Okay, one more question before we come back to...
I wanted to add to my name again. You talked about the banking sector, that cooperatives are very active in the banking sector. I want to link when you're answering that question to learn from Kerala how the banking sector is also driven by cooperatives. The second question is the role of ideology, because planning has the philosophical and ideological foundations. You know, even witchcraft may plan also to do their witchcrafting. So what's the role of ideology, basically? And I think that is linked to the question on political will, the political commitment, the ideological clarity of the governing system, given the neoliberal context you have been mentioning. That's my second question. The last one is federalism. Planning within a federal system. In our case here, we have a unique federal system, which is quite different, where the central government is highly centralized, very powerful. If you relate to Indian federal system, but at the same time we have small states. If you compare with India subcontinent, and I have in mind if we had the East African state, probably would have Tanzania state, doing well in planning other than a small state. And here I'm talking about the dream of Nkrumah about African unity. Do you see that we can do much if we plan using these small African states, given our global context? Or we need also to push the agenda of African unity, probably?
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Cooperatives, of course, are across every field. You have, as I said, fishermen's cooperatives, you have cooperative banks, you have cooperative producers organizations in particular, kind of crops and so on. Cooperative coffee growers thing, you have cooperative coffee house. Coffee houses are set up by workers' cooperatives. So cooperatives are everywhere. And of course you have this self-help group of women, a very important self-help group of women, about which books have been written, quite a few, which is quite a remarkable thing, and now they have also taken to cultivation. So different cooperatives are in different ways contributing in their respective spheres, and all of them are covered by the cooperative laws in the country. They have to be registered as cooperative societies, and that's how they function. As far as this planning board is concerned, I'd just like to say that that the planning board, the planning board is continuously at loggerheads with all kinds of ministries. Naturally, and particularly with finance ministry, because finance ministry always has officials who want to reduce expenditures, who are worried that fiscal deficit may increase and so on. So they are forever trying to cut back on expenditures, while the planning board is forever trying to push. So in that, it's very important for the planning board to be able to actually make suggestions to the finance ministry. The finance ministry always has rather conservative officials. Now, but on the other hand, the planning board vice chair, which I was, I have a lot of capacity to employ people. So I got a whole lot of brilliant young economists from all over in order to come to Kerala. Nobody wants to come to Kerala because it's so far away from the metropolitan centers. But they all came. And so I had a wonderful team of people who would actually prepare tax proposals, and then we'll give it to the finance ministry. Then why don't you raise resources this way? And once concretely you make this tax proposal, then it becomes difficult for them to say, no, we are not going to raise resources. So you have to continuously, actually make suggestions to other ministries about what to do. So it's not enough that the planning board is only vetoing things, saying no, but it has to actually make concrete suggestions. So the planning board had sufficient powers, as I said, for all this. In fact, many people used to say it is a kind of super cabinet, because it is actually something to which, as I said, all files go, and it makes suggestions to other ministries. We even would advise ministries about what kind of project to take up. For instance, this paddy law, paddy land cannot be diverted for other reasons. We made the suggestions, and actually the Ministry of Revenue had to implement that. Even the Debt Relief Commission, we made the suggestion. We are not an implementing ministry. Implementing ministries are others, but we make the suggestion, and then the implementing, and we don't go to Parliament. Implementing minister has to go to the Parliament and get the law, or to the Assembly, get the law passed and implement it. We are only suggesting, and we monitor the process. Okay, now cooperative industries, exactly how do we help the cooperative industrialization? In our case, it was very simple. We had funds. The center gave funds for backward districts. Center had specific kind of grants for backward districts. Those funds lie unutilized. You'd be amazed the amount of funds that lie unutilized in every government. So please pick up those funds, and we simply gave it to this cooperative that was coming up that wanted to produce a big factory. So the point is, the real issue is to just decide to do it. Of course, there is an overall shortage of funds. I'm not saying that we are rich countries, but even within the funds we have, a lot remains unutilized. So it's very important to make sure that its utilization occurs by, for instance, encouraging cooperatives. So we actually simply gave funds to the cooperative, funds far in excess of what anybody else would have dared to have done. We just did it in order to encourage the cooperative. So it was not just subsidy, but it is actually handing over of funds to this cooperative. As a matter of fact, his wavelength and mine were very similar. And, he's an old communist, he's 90 odd years old, but he's very kind of, very popular and so on. So I got his support. But there is a deeper issue here. Let's be very frank. Neoliberals exist within the Communist Party. Of course, because this ideology of neoliberalism is so powerful that it actually exists among the ministers, among the Communist Party leaders, and so on and so forth. Now, it exists not that they have a vested interest in it, but they have been told every day they are reading in the newspaper that this is the way forward. That what are you doing? Where is your big industry? Have you attracted a single project from a big investor? That itself becomes a matter of prestige, so they are subject to that. So the point is one has to continuously struggle against that. And in Kerala, one of the things which I mentioned earlier is that there's a very strong progressive intellectual tradition. It's a highly educated state, highly literate state. I mean, I'll give you an example. The comrade who was cooking for me was not only a person who would be completely well read in newspapers and politics and so on, but he was actually acting in films. So that occasionally he would say that, look, I can't provide dinner tonight because the shooting is happening on my film. Manufactured by the Communist Party, then of course they were more manipulative. But it is something which exists independently and therefore puts independent pressure on it. I'll give you an example that now I'm not in the planning board, but the new chief minister, also a communist chief minister, happened to appoint as his economic advisor, a Harvard economist who's quite neoliberal in her views. So there was a huge uproar in the entire state. I mean, media, everybody interviewing what is this a communist government appointing a neoliberal economist. So these things act as a check. If you don't put that check, then one thing leads to another. So it's very important to provide that check and to speak the truth. Because quite often out of fear, people don't speak the truth, and that's bad. All right. Now then, three questions that you raised. Banking sector, yes. You have different tiers. You have primary cooperative credit societies. At the village level, everybody is a member. Then you have district cooperative banks. Then you have the state cooperative bank. As a matter of fact, the central government, precisely because they would like private banks to enter Kerala. In India, banking is still nationalized. Nonetheless, there are a few private banks. But they don't want to see the cooperative movement succeed. So recently, for instance, there was a demonetization that took place. You might have seen that in India suddenly a whole lot of currency notes were demonetized. At which point, people could go to the banks, deposit their demonetized notes and take fresh notes, or deposit them into their account. But cooperative banks are not allowed to exchange notes. Now that obviously means that if you are a person holding a deposit with a cooperative bank, then your money you cannot change. So the point is that, unless you go far away somewhere in order to go to some commercial bank. So the effort is always to try and discourage the cooperative movement. But I think the cooperatives, particularly in the banking sector, are very powerful. They're extremely, almost most peasants and so on are members of these primary credit cooperative societies, and they have taken big loans, etc. In fact, many people say that because the cooperatives have given so many loans and so on, they are financially unviable, etc. But till now, that problem has not arisen. Ideology, as I said, I think it is very important for a government pursuing non-neoliberal policies to, as it were, swim in an ocean of intellectual support for non-neoliberal policies. That's very important. And then the federalism, yes. You see that we tend to think of federalism as if power at one level is necessarily at the expense of power at another level. Decision making at one level means taking away. It is not a zero-sum game. In fact, if you can have, the idea is to hit that optimal level of federalism where both the center and the states get strengthened. In other words, it's not that the center becomes stronger at the expense of the states. If you have excessive centralization, that would happen. On the other hand, if you actually have a situation where the states have some areas of their own, so that the states can raise resources, so the overall plan expenditure by the center and states can increase. I gave you the example of GST. GST is in the name of Goods and Services Tax, Uniform Goods and Services Tax, is in the name of unifying the market. That's the demand of big capital. But the moment that happens, states have lost their ability to raise resources. Suppose the states had not lost this ability. That's centralization, that is as it were weakening states. But suppose the states have not lost this ability, then they could have raised resources. Different states could have raised resources in different ways. The overall plan would have been larger in such a case. So it is not the case that centralization and decentralization are just antithetical to one another. It is that you can work out a non-zero sum game, where actually everybody, the overall benefit can be there, provided you have the correct sort of approach towards it. We're talking about Pan-African, African unity and so on. I think I had the good fortune of listening once to Raoul Prebisch, the founder of the ECLA. Prebisch was saying that many things, Latin American common market, for instance, didn't work out, and Prebisch was saying why it did work out. One of the things he said is that that suppose you have a Latin American or an African common market between a whole lot of countries, then you would find that capital would tend to get concentrated within particular regions. And if that happens, other regions actually suffer. So you have within the country the dichotomy of development and underdevelopment, or within the common market, dichotomy of development and underdevelopment manifesting itself. He said for that it's very important to actually have sort of, let's say, Pan-African planning of investment so that is diverted to backward regions. So these are very important issues.
The central government and the local government budget. So I just want to know the experience from India. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
The planning board protect the good decision that the government has arrived at in order not to be altered or changed by the succeeding government. I do believe that there are succeeding government during the model, but there are good decisions that has been made or has been arrived at a certain government. And what is the power that the planning board have that would allow them to protect the good decision that the government has arrived at in order not to be altered or changed by the succeeding government?
Okay. Are functioning within a certain ethos of discussion in society, within a certain kind of political atmosphere, environment. As a matter of fact, Kerala is one state where even the opposition has many progressive ideas. Many in the opposition are in fact as anti-neoliberal as say I would be. In fact, when I mean, there were opposition to the Congress Party, the Communists were the ruling party. Sometimes in Parliament, Central Parliament in Delhi, I would be called, not just me and some friends, as professors to go and depose before some parliamentary committee on particular neoliberal measures. And the Congress members would come up to me and say, you must, please, you must make out a case. This is horrible what they're trying to do against their own government. So yeah, I mean that after all there is a certain conversation. That conversation remains, and as long as that conversation remains and we are operating within a certain atmosphere of intellectual awareness and discussion and criticism, it becomes very difficult to do wholesale scrapping. Yes, you can de facto do something which undermines and so on, but then the next time the other government comes and it can rectify. But you can't just have wholesale scrapping. That's my experience. Land reform is a classic case. Land reform was introduced by the communist government, but subsequent governments actually could not go back upon it. They carried on. All right. Now the first question is budget. The budget of the state government is approved entirely by the state legislature. The budget of the central government is approved entirely by the central legislature. The central legislature has no control on the state government's budget. Just as the state legislature has no control on the LSGI's, local self-governing institutions' budgets. That is theirs, state government budget is its own, and the center's budget is its own. What used to happen is that the plan component of the budget, you see, the central government has got certain regulations about how much the state government can borrow, from what sources it can borrow, etc. So before we finalize our plan, we used to go and talk to the planning commission in Delhi First, to find out how much money they would give us, which we can then incorporate into our plan, because they gave some money, not too much, but some. And secondly, for them to be satisfied that we have not violated any of the rules. Otherwise, state government can go and surreptitiously borrow from a Swiss bank. So the center can't allow that. So that discussion used to happen. But once we have finalized the plan and it's part of the budget, center has nothing to do with the budget.
Okay. I'm afraid we have to wind up, given the constraint of time. I really wish that we had more time. And as I said, certain parallels ran through my mind. The question of cooperatives on the one hand, the question of local government institution, the village level on the other. And we have the foundations for both in our country. We have tradition of cooperatives, which we keep, as you know, right? And we have local government. One thing that Nyerere left us is the village government. In the village, we have General Assembly, Village Assembly Putanamku, which are all residents of the village. Nibungela Kijiji is the village parliament. And then we have Halbishop, the government of the village. But they are of course totally starved of resources, they are totally starved of decision-making powers. Currently, those of us who do research know that Katibu Kata has more powers than the village government. Katibu Katas are some kind of small tyrants there.
Is it tyrant?
Yes. Is it? That's it. But we have the foundation. We have the foundation. And how do you connect this? How do you connect this? So that is something very interesting and we should think about. And then the comprehensive cooperative, because the cooperatives of which we express about the marketing cooperative. But our cooperatives in the 50s also, you know, sent peasants' children for education, right? Number of people who are educated by scholarships they got from cooperatives. Victoria, Cooperative Society, KNC, and so on. Okay? And then for whatever reason, we killed them. We tried to revive them in 1982, but those cooperatives are not the same.
Yeah.
But now if you think of comprehensive cooperative, including cooperative banks, and this again is an important point, because there's a lot of talk today in this country that how do you give credit to peasants? Okay? So what are you going for? We are going for registration of land, giving titles. So those titles can be used to get land. As collateral. Which commercial bank will give you loan on your 2-acre field? No commercial bank. Okay? And nowhere in the world it does. So cooperative banks play a critical role. Cooperative banks which are owned by peasants owned cooperatives. We started CRDB, that was the conception. Rural Development Bank. Originally, CRDB, that was the conception of Mwalimu, to supposed to be a cooperative bank. Today, of course, CRDB has become a purely commercial bank. All right? Now the government has certain shares, but other shares have been sold to private people. So we destroyed that. There is no way you can talk about agriculture development without having a cooperative base. Industrialization. Okay? We all the time think of industrialization in terms of inviting foreign big industry, big project. What we got to deliver. Okay? Now, you become dependent. You become dependent. And these industries will not have link to our own sectors. But if you encourage, create conditions, atmosphere, legal atmosphere, political atmosphere for cooperatives, okay, to go into industry, and why not? One of the most successful cooperatives in this region, Kenya Creamery. You know that it is a cooperative. In the 50s, no Bobero farmers, Asian farmers. So we have this example with ourselves. And if cooperative industrialization linked to the village, then of course you are making independent self. On their own, our persons cannot afford, right? You have the increments. At the moment, they hire tractors. Very expensive. Very expensive. But if your cooperatives, which establish the machines and tools, unions, which own these implements and tractors, which belong to them because they are part of the cooperatives, then of course the money remains with the outside. In the process, you create domestic market, which is extremely important. Finally, I want to come to one point, and I think this concerns us, because although I may not remember you, okay, by name and so on, I can assure you that 95% of people sitting here have passed the University of Dar es Salaam. Am I right? Very few exceptions, right? Now, why have we failed to create those intellectual ethics? Where you can say, You failed. But we had the opportunity. And we are doing it once upon a time. Have we forgotten? We are doing it one of them. That is the biggest pressure. That's the biggest pressure. Okay? And to a certain extent, we had begun to create that tradition. And I will give you one specific example. In the third phase government, our constitution talks about Ujamaa, still, about socialism. But of course, everyone knew we don't follow socialism. We don't follow Ujamaa. So third phase government wanted to remove the phrase Ujamaa from the constitution. But they were told, no. There will be outcry. They were told there will be outcry. You can't do that. Okay? So what do? Instead of removing, you smuggle in the definition of Ujamaa in our constitution. So if you read the definition of Ujamaa in our constitution, it means everything under the sun. Anyone can be socialist. Okay? But no hue and cry. Because we don't even know that would happen. But I'm saying at least there was a fear. Right? There was that fear. Certainly happened. In 1991, we had the Land Commission, right, which had gone around the country. I was chairing it. People in the villages knew what the Land Commission was recommending, right? There was discussion about it. It took 4 years for the government to pass the land laws because of the pressure. So, these pressures do work, but I think it's our responsibility. Our responsibility. I know some of you may be in the government, so may not be able to openly say certain things. But as Prabhat Patnaik was saying, Professor Patnaik was saying, and I also experienced it. The Land Commission visited Kenya. Okay? We learned from Kenya. So of course you go and see the government people, principal secretaries and so on. And then the land, Kenya goes to land market, right? So you discuss it and the bureaucrats will explain to you this, that. When you are coming out, someone will come. A senior officer will come and say, don't follow our path. Mr. What are you? We have lots of problems. It happens. Hata hapa kwetu. Professor, zungumza yote. Sisi hatusikizwi. Our idea. You see? So I think you have to create a certain discourse, you have to create a certain intellectual ethos. That is the greatest pressure. Because, we should not take as government as omnipotent, they can do anything they want. No. People do matter. So, as I said, unfortunately we don't have much time, but I don't know what you feel, I think it's a very important discussion. And we should carry it on. That's actually important. And I will not answer the question about ideology and so on, because I think Bashir is the one who should now do it, right? He is in that position. So give us the ideological lead. Absolutely. Thank you very much on behalf of everyone. It has been great, and we will learn more from Thank you.